RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sunrays. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the table. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, you just wrapped up an episode with Jay Campbell on our new show, Guru Talk, talking about TRT. Talk about that episode. You said it was a very informative episode. And then for those of our audience who have not yet seen Guru Talk, our new show, tell the fans a little bit more about it.
Yeah, Guru Talk was actually your idea. I got to give you credit where credit's due, Sid. You said these topics that we talk about with the different various gurus between Chris and Amin, and hopefully George Farrell, will get him on for a future episode, and all the coaches out there who are helping people get ready, plus the people in the industry, insiders who are helping, in terms of hormone replacement and that kind of stuff. This is the stuff people really want to know about. They want to know information. And while it's great when I talk about this stuff on Ask Dave, and I know people really enjoy this, it's nice to get other perspectives sometimes on these topics. And Jay Campbell was recommended to me by Fairfax Hackley, but he's also friends with Rick Collins and a lot of other mutual friends. And he wrote, a couple books on testosterone optimization therapy, as he calls it. And I like that term too. Especially my Testalize product, I call it testosterone optimizer. It's balancing the hormones in your body to be perfectly in balance, high testosterone, moderate, estrogen and DHT, and da-da-da-da-da. But this turned out to be one of the more informative, interviews I've ever done, because even I learned a couple of things that I didn't quite know. I knew intuitively, but Jay is really into the research and really into what the latest, I guess that these cutting edge doctors are coming up with. And basically what we learned, and you guys, when you watch the episode, you'll see, is that aromatase inhibitors, which we all, use and love, are really the evil villains in all this. And they can be really bad for your health if you don't use them properly. And I think a lot of people abuse them out there. I was always a very, light on the aromatase inhibitor, type of thing use. And, I always said that aromatase inhibitors don't prevent you from getting gynecomastia. And that's now the standard research is out there. I was right. If you're going to get gynecomastia, it's a genetic thing. You can keep your estrogen at 0, you're still going to get it. And that's why guys get gynecomastia surgery. And that's why Dr. Blau, who I send everyone to, is so popular. For people who are keeping their estrogen too low, however, using a lot of aromatase inhibitors, there's a lot of negative health benefits or health effects to that, especially on the brain. And so I think when you guys watch this episode, you're going to learn a lot of stuff that you didn't know before. I think it's one of the more informative interviews I've done over the years. I can't even remember one that was as good as this one. So enjoy it when it comes out, because I really did enjoy it. And I'll probably get Jay back too to talk about some other topics.
So we'll have that live for you tomorrow afternoon. Again, Guru Talk. If you haven't seen any other episodes, I think we're about 5 or 6 episodes deep. Very informative show where Dave and guests do a deep dive on the different, scientific angles of the topics pertaining to bodybuilding and bodybuilding supplementation. Let's get to the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, Dave, I love these new workouts. Talking about the new workouts now featured on the app. Did you include dips in your training before or never for chest or triceps days? Please let us know why.
Yeah, the Dave Palumbo Experience app, for those of you who don't know, is an app that you can download from the iTunes or Android store. It's $29 a month, and you basically have access to all my articles and videos I've ever done. Everything, it's like a library of Dave Palumbo information. Plus, I answer everyone's questions on the app, and I do it in an open forum so that everyone can see everyone's questions and answers, which is great. I also do a weekly Q&A video on there that's exclusive to the app, and now we're giving free workouts once a week. So you get a new workout every week that you can kind of do up there. I know people had really asked for that. They said, Dave, we want workouts, stuff that we can, vary up. So now you get access to that. So it's a great informational tool. A lot of people, call it their Bible. They sit and they read the app while they're on the toilet bowl and all that other great stuff. And they learn a lot, and that's what it's all about. As far as, my training goes, I always felt that dips, were an exercise that I did a lot of when I was first starting. But I felt like it was always like it was like doing push-ups for me. I just felt like it never was a real huge mass builder, although I did use it successfully. I would try to sometimes use it for triceps where I would do, more upright, dips, in a straight manner. I would do them leaning over more for pec development. But like I said, I just never felt like, I always felt weights more than using body weight type stuff. And it could be that there's a lot of stabilization, in dips. And even though my shoulders were actually functional at some point in my career, they started getting, sore quickly, and that was a really highly stabilized movement. So I never was really able to go heavy enough because of the stabilization issue, because I have very loose joints. So for me, biomechanically, I just didn't feel it was that good. I've seen other people do dips and grow from them, and really get good benefits. Usually guys with shorter arms, tighter joints do well with that exercise. So I've said this before, not every exercise is for everyone. I never found skull crushers to be that effective because I have a very long arm. I just didn't feel it in my triceps that much. So I stopped doing them. And you know what? My triceps got better doing other exercises that isolated the triceps. So you have to find what works for you. If you feel them and you get good results, then do them. If not, then don't do them. I would throw them in every once in a while just to shock my body, but I never relied on them heavily.
Second question, again, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, I'm following your mass gain diet and growing like crazy. Thank you. I noticed it has no carbs from wheat sources. Is it okay to have products made from wheat sources in the off season? And if so, what would you recommend that I have?
I think there probably is. I believe that regular oatmeal has some wheat in it, but I'm not against wheat at all, unless you have you have celiac disease and you are allergic to wheat. I know a lot of people think they're wheat intolerant, but most of those people just are not. I think that there are people out there, and I know this for a fact, that because you can get tested, if you have antibodies against the wheat protein and you are diagnosed with celiac, then you probably shouldn't eat it. But I always found that rice, potatoes, to a certain degree, pasta, just are easily assimilated. Those are the sources of carbs that I use a lot. I use a lot of oatmeal in the morning too. Sometimes I use grits. Sometimes I use cream of wheat. I varied it. In most of my diets, however, I put a lot of rice and potatoes because I think most people tolerate that. Remember, when I create a diet that I'm going to put out there, like on an app or just in an article I do, or even in a video I do, I try to make it a universal type of diet that everyone can follow. If you're not a big rice person, or you're not a good big potato or sweet potato person, you can do pasta in the off season. You can do oatmeal. You can do quinoa. There's so many different sources of carbs that you can even incorporate bagels if you really wanted to. I mean, there's so many sources of carbs you can do, but I try to give a universal diet out there. When I have an individual person who comes to me for coaching, I ask them what foods they like and don't like, and then I put together a diet for them. If they're getting sick or bored of eating the same thing, then I'll change it up, So that's really how that comes about. It's hard to give a generalized diet out that everyone can follow and get good results from. And when I do that, I try to keep it so that most people are not going to have allergies or problems with the diet program itself.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not following us, our handle is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to Swaggy Snoot 1005. Can you briefly describe a low-moderate carb protocol for a bodybuilder when they're dieting on low to no carbs?
What I usually do is, if the show's on a Saturday morning, I'll definitely carb people Thursday and Friday, if we're talking about men. Sometimes I'll start them even on Wednesday, depending on how depleted they are. Usually when I have people on a really low carb diet, I have them on protein and fats. So they're eating moderate fats, high protein. I keep the fats in when I add the carbs. That's a mistake people make. A lot of times they take the fat out and they add the carbs in. And what they're actually doing is lowering the person's calories, because fats have double the calories per gram that carbs do. So it's a mistake to remove the fats, because now your body doesn't have a fuel source. It starts using these carbs for fuel instead of the fats, and you're not storing any carbs as glycogen in the muscle. Especially also when you add carbs at the end, what you're going to notice is the metabolism is going to speed up, and now you're going to need even more food. So it's a real big mistake to remove the fats while you're carbing up. You want your body to continue using the protein and fat for building and repairing muscle. Carbs we'll use, some of it will be used for energy, but if you're not really training the last 2 days, Thursday and Friday, you're off from the gym on a Saturday show, you should be loading all that carbs as glycogen into the muscle. And that's the theory. How much depends on the person. You know, sometimes I'll give them 35, 40 grams per meal times 6 meals. Sometimes I'll give them 50 to 60 to 70 grams of carbs per meal, and it depends on the person's metabolic rate. A lot of times I don't like to go crazy high on the carbs. For me, like if I have a guy with a crazy fast metabolism and I notice that he's not filling up on, you know, say 350 grams of carbs a day, rather than go to 700 like some of these guys do, I'll tell him to eat a, you know, double quarter pounder with cheese and French fries, you know, as a 7th meal, you know, on those carb up days to top the day off. And that kind of like will slow them down a little bit and really help load their body without giving them excessive amounts of carbs. It's almost like a fat load, really. But it's just, and it's got a lot of salt and grease in it. It just kind of slows their metabolism down a little bit enough so they can fill up. A lot of times, once that metabolism gets racing, you start just blasting through that food, and it just doesn't last. It's too clean almost.
Let's go to Barbarian Training. Good one here. Who do you think is the United Kingdom's best hope in the open ranks? He mentions Luke Sandow, Nathan Diasha, James Hollingshead, and Sas Herati. Now, for those of you who didn't see yesterday, some fun between Nathan Diasha and Antoine Vaillant going back and forth on Instagram. So again, Dave, Luke Sandow, Nathan Diasha, James Hollingshead, and Sas Herati in the open ranks.
Well, I mean, if you have to look at who the top placer guys are now, I guess you would originally say Nathan Diasha. He's won shows. He's, you know, gone to the Olympia. He's done well there. Luke Sandow, however, with the 3rd place at the Arnold, has to now be another threat. Once again, Luke packing more muscle per square inch than Nathan. Nathan structurally better than Luke. One-on-one on the Olympia stage, I guess it depends on who's going to be in shape or not. If they're both at their best, I think Nathan has more tools at his disposal. But I think that Luke is more complete in the sense that he has a lot more density. But once again, until we see them on stage, we won't really know. It's hard to compare. But, you know, from a structural standpoint, Nathan is definitely better.
Dave, we're getting all sorts of questions. Obviously, one of the biggest developments last week was the matter at hand with Aaron Singerman and PJ Braun. You did briefly describe, you gave a statement on Heavy Muscle Radio. For those who haven't listened, if you want to comment on this, we're getting all sorts of different questions from different angles. If you want to give a comment on the situation.
You know, people are like breaking my balls because I'm not addressing this indictment that came out there. And, you know, we did, John Romano, Chris Aceto and I did briefly address it on Heavy Muscle Radio this past Monday night. The bottom line is that there's a 36-page indictment that came out. Now, I'm not a lawyer, okay? I'm friends with Aaron. I'm friends with PJ. I did PJ's diet for many years when he was competing. He worked for me as a species nutrition athlete. I like to believe that I at least, you know, influenced him in a positive way. Aaron worked for us at RxMuscle, as you know. He's a sponsor of the site. He's a friend of mine. So, you know, these guys, you know, whatever they did that might have been illegal or whatever they're being indicted for, and you could read the indictment, you know, I don't know if it's trumped up. I don't know if it's legitimate or not. I wasn't privy to the inner workings of the company, Blackstone Labs, while they were there. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what they were doing. So only they know that. So for me to comment on where they're going to go to jail, if they're not going to go to jail, would be irresponsible. And it would be disrespectful to them as, you know, as their friends. So, you know, all I can say is I hope the best. I wish the best to them. I hope a lot of it's just, you know, trumped up charges. I hope they can, you know, overcome this and get past it. And hopefully, you know, once again, my prayers go out to their families, really, because it's the families that will be affected negatively if anything goes down. And like I said, I know they're both smart guys. They're going to hire good legal representation. They're going to go through all the discovery and all the, you know, the charges, and that's how it goes. You know, you got to take one step at a time. It's going to be a very long process. And I mean, look what happened to Don Long. Don Long's serving time right now. I mean, for something that, you know, he might or might not have done. Only Don knows what was done behind closed doors. You know, according to Don's, you know, when I talked to him before he went into prison, he was like, you know, this was bull, you know, and he just got caught in the middle of something that he shouldn't have. I don't know what Aaron and PJ did. So for me to make a comment and say, oh, these guys did this and that, I don't know. No one knows. Let's see what happens. Let's give them their day in court. after the charges go down and after they're sentenced, then we can talk about it. And we can debate whether it was silly or not that they did it, or it was stupid they did it or not. And hopefully, they'll get past this, because it's not like they're bad guys, and they're contributing in a positive way to the bodybuilding world by giving athletes contracts out there, and they're putting money into the promoters' pockets. So you really can't put them down for that, whether you like them or not. If you were in that situation, you wouldn't feel very good right now. I can promise you that. So they need our prayers now. They don't need us to put them down or to be negative about the situation.
Let's go to our next question. Is your Banfic or Banfitch Dave hate this show? I see many bodybuilders eating only egg whites, and I wondered what's the reason behind it. I know the yolk is high in fats, but those are good ones, so I don't see a reason to restrain from eating them. Is it just cholesterol?
If you want to really know about what I think about eggs, and I'm not going to make a comment here, I just did a rant about, there was a new study that came out that said if you eat 3 or more eggs per day, you're going to die, basically. And so, it's the most ridiculous study of all time. I did a great rant on it, and Tyler did an amazing job editing it all together. There you can see a little brief preview of it. It's going to probably be up in the next couple of days. Watch it, I promise you. It'll give you the answers to every question you ever had about eggs.
Let's go to WTF as a sandwich. Dave, can you please answer this question for my coworkers? Quote, doesn't gear make your junk small? Also, do you believe the opposite is true? We know that it causes growth there for women.
Yeah, well, a male is not growing anymore down there, okay, because the penis is done going through puberty by the time you're an adult. So nothing's growing down there. I think what the problem is, people confuse your testicles, which are where your sperm is produced, and your penis, which is the male, organ that, you can have sex with and you pee through. So, the penis size, which is what everyone's all concerned about, that doesn't change, okay, when you take anabolic steroids. What changes is your testicle size can get smaller because they're not producing sperm and testosterone in there, when you're on steroids. So they can get a little smaller, but that's not going to affect the size of your penis. So that's something that people get confused about, because they just say, oh, steroids, it makes your penis small. No, I think weighing 280 pounds, makes your penis look small. Okay? If you're 120 pounds, your penis is going to look a lot bigger, right? Because it's in proportion to the size of your body. Some guys get so big, their legs, that you don't even see their penis. It's kind of hidden between two big, hunks of quad muscle. So, yeah, I think that's a big misnomer people don't understand.
Let's go to Justin Marvin. Difference between Fiberlize and a psyllium husk product at your local store.
Yeah, I get this question sometimes a lot. First of all, Fiberlize is not just psyllium. There's 2 types of fiber. There's soluble fiber, which is the one we want the majority of. That's the fiber that absorbs water, bulks your stool up, lowers your cholesterol levels, helps regulate your body's ability to eliminate waste from the body, works the colon. That does most of the good stuff. But then there's insoluble fiber that also has added benefits to the body. It helps, remove waste from the walls of your colon. It alkalinizes the colon as well to keep the acidity level down so the immune system functions well there, less likely to get colon cancer. So you want both. Fiberlize has both soluble and insoluble fiber. You definitely want a psyllium source of soluble fiber, however, because psyllium is 8 times more potent on a gram for gram basis than the highest naturally occurring source of soluble fiber in the body, which would, I guess, be oat bran. So it's more potent. So you definitely always want to use psyllium. The key is, and a lot of people, I didn't even know this when I first started, making fiber supplement, there's different grades of psyllium. So when you go to the store and you buy pure psyllium and you're like, oh, this is so cheap, I might as well buy this rather than Fiberlize. Then you go home and use it and you don't get the benefit of it. And you're like, I don't understand why it's not working. It doesn't work like Fiberlize. Well, that's because we use the highest grade psyllium. There's something called swell rates. First of all, there's how much, what's the yield of the psyllium. We use the highest yield. Psyllium's 95% yield. Most of these companies probably use 70 or 70 to 80% yield. which is a big difference. Doesn't sound like it's a very big difference. Then there's what we call swell rate, how much water the psyllium absorbs. That's important. You want the highest swell rate because you're going to have the best benefit from that. We use the highest yield and the highest swell rate of psyllium. So that's why when people use Fiberlife, they're like, holy mackerel, this stuff works better than anything I've ever tried. And that's the idea. That's why I put it out. As you guys know, I only put out the highest quality supplements. I will not put something inferior out. If there's something better on the market that I can purchase, even if it costs more, I'll put it out. I don't mind charging the customer a couple cents more or a couple dollars more if I know I'm giving them a better quality supplement that's going to get better results. And that's the whole premise behind Species Nutrition, the best out there. And once again, the only complaints we ever have from anyone on the Species Nutrition products is, I wish it cost a little less. And the proof is in the pudding. When we do these crazy sales every once in a while, we sell everything. We sell, 2,000, 3,000 units out in 2 hours because people like the products. The only impediment to some people buying them is price, but we try to keep the price affordable enough that people should use them. And that's why I educate people and say, look, there's certain products that are necessities. Fiberlife is one of them. And then there are other products that are luxury items. A whey protein isolate like Isolise is a luxury item. You don't have to use it. You can eat food if you really wanted to, but it's a luxury item. If you have the money to do it, you buy it because it makes it more convenient for you to get the protein that you need. So understand the difference between imperative must-have supplements and then luxury items. Pre-workout, luxury item. Amino acid product, luxury item. Multivitamin like V-Mineralize, necessity. Essential fatty acid supplement like Omega-Lyze, necessity. And there's not that many necessities, but the necessities, they're extra vitamin D3, 5,000 to 7,000 units a day, necessity, okay? Once you have all your necessities taken care of, whatever you got left, knock yourself out and get those luxury items. But it's important that you understand the difference. Quality makes a huge impact on how your body responds to these supplements you're taking and the benefits that you get health-wise.
Train insane. Holding onto the treadmill without leaning, will it hinder fat loss? I believe so, since less muscle will be used to stabilize the body. What do you think?
Are they saying if you're holding onto the treadmill, you're gonna get a better workout? When I first started bodybuilding, the first show I did Stairmaster, like 20 minutes, I think twice a day, which is brutal. And I would put it on level 15 because I thought I had to go so. I was leaning against that treadmill, so my triceps would be exhausted by the time the workout was over. Was that reducing my ability to, burn calories? Or I don't know. I guess it's probably is a little bit of cheating. If you have to hold on that much, you're probably going too fast and too intense on your cardio anyway. When I would do treadmill, I would just put my hands lightly on the handle because I'm accident prone. I would wind up, misstepping, and I've done it before, even with holding on. Thank God I was holding on, and I'd go flying off the treadmill. So, especially when you're dieting and on low carbs, always hold on.
K. Simonell, has compression for contest day ever been utilized successfully? Could compression of the lower limbs and midsection help eliminate more sub-Q water? And could compression around the joints help to exaggerate the appearance of full muscle bellies?
When they're saying compression, are they talking about wearing like compression, clothing?
I would imagine compression sleeves or something. Yeah.
When you're holding excess fluid, I'll give you a leg example. Sometimes people will after a show, their legs will blow up with water, or sometimes if you injure like a lower leg, you bang your shin, it'll all blow up and you get inflammation in there and the legs swell up, and you wear a pressure stocking and it gets rid of that. But when you're getting ready for a competition and you're drying out that last couple days before the show, you're taking diuretics, you're restricting fluid intake. If you're holding fluid in limbs at that point, there's something wrong with your kidneys or wrong with you, because you should not be holding any fluid in that depleted of a state. So I don't know what they're referring to, because how are you going to wear compression stuff? The problem is if you're wearing something that's fitting too tight, like the night before, you might create lines, on your body where the compression stocking ends and where it starts. And it could screw your tan up. So I always say don't do anything crazy that last week. Just do what you normally been doing. Don't start wearing stuff you haven't been wearing. Don't start adding, like little supplements to your regimen that you haven't done. Usually you're asking for trouble when you're doing that. There's no one else does those type of crazy things, and everyone else, and there's plenty of people that look really good and really dry on stage.
Romeo Salinasiv, Dave, I have really bad knees with bone-on-bone issues. I have a hard time doing squats due to pain behind my kneecaps. What exercises or supplements do you suggest that I take to increase quad size and density?
Well, obviously, your quad size and density is being affected by your ability to train because of your knee pain. So, number one, I would take a good, joint, repair and I guess you could say fixing type supplement, which would be high in glucosamine MSM, at least 4 grams per day of each supplement. Arthrolyze, my Species Nutrition product, is 5 pills twice a day. It gives you 4 grams of each of those, perfectly balanced. Plus, you also get boron in there, which is a great cofactor in joint repair, and you get chondroitin sulfate in there. Also, you get I use the patented UC2 collagen, which inactivates the immune system. It basically tells the immune system leave the joints alone. Without going into a whole explanation, that's how it works. A supplement like that is imperative, okay? But if you're getting knee pain, that means there's some kind of rubbing going on or some kind of biomechanical problem. Usually, in my experience, when guys go or women go to their chiropractor or to their podiatrist, and they get a pair of custom-made orthotics, which are basically, they mold your feet and they give you a custom insert. You put in your shoe, you take the insert that's in the sneaker already, and you wear them all the time, whether you're training or not training, and that corrects the biomechanics of your feet. When the biomechanics of your feet are perfect, the angle of your hips, your knees, your back is perfectly aligned, so that when you're training your legs, you're not going to be your knees are not going to rub incorrectly, you're not going to get joint pain, you're not going to get back pain. And I think that's a big problem with a lot of people out there, is that their biomechanics are not good. And as you get heavier and heavier, that little biomechanical, offness about your body is going to be amplified, tenfold as you get heavier and heavier. So a lot of times people notice, oh, I had no problems when I was 150 or 160, 170, 180. As soon as I hit 200 pounds, all of a sudden I have all this pain, back pain and knee pain, and it's because you're amplifying how much weight now is being distributed. And a lot of times also, as you get heavier, those arches in your feet, the natural arches, get flatter and flatter, which changes the angle of the way your knees, hips, and back sit. So once again, orthotics for all my clients at least are imperative, and I always suggest to anyone who asks me, it's definitely gear that should be in every single bodybuilder's arsenal. Anyone who works out and trains legs should wear custom orthotics in their shoes, because no one can ever have perfect biomechanics. And if you look at my orthotic, there's a huge arch in it. Other people might have a good arch and they might only be a little bit, but everyone can be corrected somewhat and made perfectly biomechanically. So I highly suggest, if you take the sport seriously and you're going to try to go far in the sport, get a pair of custom orthotics made.
Let's go to Reamers or Rhymers. Dave, your thoughts about DNA testing for fitness and weight loss worth the money?
I think it is. I had all my DNA tested. I actually, on my DavePalumbo.com website, I sell a DNA test. You buy the test, you swab your cheek, you put it in the little test tube, you send it off to the address there, and then the DNA lab will test all your DNA. It's like a million different markers, and they'll send you back the results, and they'll actually call you and go over it with you. And it's good to know what I found out is a lot of the things I knew kind of intuitively just from observing over the years that I'm good at and not good at. I can't digest lactose. Guess what? I have a defect in the lactase gene. My DNA came back. I wasn't surprised. I was reading the thing and I'm like, wow, this is pretty accurate. This is exactly, this is me to a T. And all the things that I'm good at and not good at really matched up with what I thought. The thing that I was the most afraid of is I wanted to see if I had like any Alzheimer's genes in my DNA, because I'm like, oh, that's all I need to lose my mind. I think I'm losing my mind as it is, but I think I'm just too busy. And supposedly all my Alzheimer's, all those genes, for memory loss and dementia came back negative. So that's good. At least I have some good brain genes. But it's good to know. Look, even if you get one valid piece of information from testing your DNA, it's going to only help you, right? I'm going to test my kids' DNA. I keep saying I'm going to do it. I keep forgetting. I got to swab their cheeks and send it in, because I want to know what they're going to be good at and what they're not going to be good at. What foods they can eat and what foods they shouldn't eat. This is just going to give me a better idea of what's going on the gene level for them. And I think in the future, I think everyone's going to get their DNA tested when you're born. So this way you have a pattern of what you're good at and what you're not going to be good at. there's no sense in, there's no sense in pushing your kids into a sport or into some kind of activity that you know they're just genetically going to be, you know, at a disadvantage for, unless they just absolutely love it. So I think the more data you can collect about yourself, the better the decision making will be.
Bradley Lauk, Dave, if you could build your ultimate 16-week bulking cycle for pure size, what compounds would you use and what would the protocol be? I know you like to switch compounds halfway through.
Yeah, for mass, I usually switch compounds every 6 weeks. I usually do testosterone at 1,000 milligrams per week, approximately, with another anabolic, whether it be equipoise for 6 or 8 weeks, and then I switch to like a trenbolone acetate for 6 to 8 weeks. Then I'll switch to a deca for 6 to 8 weeks. Those are my 3 favorite mini cycles, I call them. Combine that with growth hormone, you know, 3 to 4 IUs per day. If your body needs insulin, and that would be based on, you know, blood sugar readings, you know, you could put insulin into the mix. Obviously, a small amount of aromatase inhibitor to, you know, inhibit estrogen, and you're good to go. Off season, believe it or not, I always believe less is better, because the more drugs you put into the regimen, the more you affect your appetite. It's very hard to eat enough food when you're trying to gain muscle, because you're eating 6 to 8 times a day sometimes. And for guys who have fast metabolism, it might even be more than that. If you're taking drugs like orals, like Anadrol, Dianabol, they kill your appetite, it's going to make it brutally hard to get enough. It's hard enough to get that much food down as it is. So less is better. Use the long-acting esters. They tend to affect appetite less. And, you know, what I find is consistency is really what rules the day. You got to consistently take your stuff every other day so you get nice even blood levels of the stuff, and eat your food, train, and grow. I mean, that's what it's amounts to. If you start getting too fancy, then I think you're gonna have problems. If you start putting a lot of orals in, you're gonna kill your appetite. You're not gonna be able to eat. If you don't eat, you're not gonna grow.
Jay Macon or Mackin, the best way to bring up your chest. Every other body part for him seems to be growing, but his chest is lagging. In general, what would you suggest? Usually
I say when chest is a weak body part, it means you're not training it right. It probably means that you're using a lot of deltoids. So when you're on that bench, sitting back, you like my Tom Platz quad father shirt? When you're sitting back and you're doing those presses, now look, you see that? I got new shoulders now. I could actually do this. It doesn't hurt. When you're pressing, a lot of times what happens is when people start cheating is they roll their shoulders forward to kind of squeeze that weight up because their pecs are weak. Once you do that, now you're using front delts and your pecs are not being used. And you can get into a really bad habit of doing that all the time, and then you never get any upper pec development. You know, that happened to me for a long time. I had to reteach myself. I had to get on an incline bench. I did nothing flat. The incline I used was it was a very narrow incline. Those 90 degree, 45 degree ones are too steep. Maybe 30 degrees, and I just kept my chest up. I didn't take too wide of a grip. I kept like a little wider than shoulder grip, and I just really squeezed, you know, whether it be barbell or dumbbell. Always keep the chest up. When the chest can't lift the weight anymore and you feel like you just can't lift anymore, don't cheat, don't roll, because then you create bad habits. The set's over. Or have a training partner who's going to help you a little bit to do some force reps. But you have to retrain your chest on how to check. And it's humbling, because it sucks when you can bench press 315. Now you got to take a step back and go back to 135 and learn how to re-bench press again. But I promise you, if you learn the right way and you don't cheat, you'll go past that 315 mark. You'll be benching 405 in 3 or 4 months. So don't be afraid sometimes to take a step back, bury your ego, and learn how to do the movement again. Because if you have a weak body part, there's a reason it's weak. If everything else is growing, it just means you're not training that body part properly.
I know we're over the 30-minute threshold, but I wanted to squeeze in a couple of more. The Atomic Beast, your opinion on an all-game meat diet, in parentheses hunting. I know Branch Warren was a hunter, and he ate mainly wild game during his preps. Have you ever tried it? What do you think?
I have no problem, with doing like an all meat diet. There's nothing wrong. I used to go through different stages of my diet where I would eat a ton of eggs at one diet. Another diet, I was eating salmon like 4 times a day. There was one, I remember in 96 USA, I was eating like 3 pounds of swordfish a day. It was costing me a fortune. I just went through weird, taste things where something just tasted good to me and I craved it and I figured, well, that's what my body needs. I like to vary the protein sources around because I think that every protein source has a different benefit and negative to it. If you do too much of one thing, you're going to be deficient in something else. Remember, every protein source also has fat associated with it. And whether it be salmon, swordfish, okay, the fat from that, or versus the fat from red meat, versus the fat from, say, chicken, or versus the fat from a whole egg, they're all different. So I like to vary it. I think it's a mistake to just pigeonhole yourself into one type of protein source. Can you do it? Can you do it with good results? Sure. But I think you're better off varying it if you have the opportunity to.
But Dave, do you put any merit into it being like wild caught meat, right? So
yeah,
or purity with that, or
wild caught, assuming it's not like sometimes you go to these deer hunting places and they feed the deer like corn, and then the deer are basically just sitting there. You can just kind of shoot them. That's not wild game. If you're really going out into the jungle and you're hunting wild animals, theoretically, the meat should be leaner and it should also be better quality, because when animals eat the natural sources of foods that they're supposed to eat, leaves and stuff like that, they actually have a much higher omega-3 content to their fats that you're eating that's in the meat. So yeah, I think it's much healthier. Grass-fed beef is actually higher in omega-3 fats than salmon is, which is unheard of because we all think of salmon as the gold standard on omega-3 fats, wild-caught salmon, of course. So I think wild game definitely has its health benefits as well. But I still think you should vary your sources of protein.
Big Gun 74, Dave, your thoughts on chicken shakes? Say 500 ml of coconut water with 7-ounce cooked chicken breast, 1 cup spinach, 100 grams of gluten-free oatmeal with ice, and a scoop of your protein for added taste. I've been using this as a post-workout shake for the past several weeks, as well as a meal replacement when I'm in a hurry. Your thoughts?
I love it. If you can do it and you can stomach it, great. I've told the story before. I once I heard Gary Stridham used to put cans of tuna into the blender and blend it up with apple juice and some other stuff. I tried it, and you know what? There's not many things that make me throw up. It made me throw up, or it was pretty close to it. I was gagging in my mouth, so. But if that tastes good to you, I always say do it, because if you blend up whole foods, it's going to be a lot better than just doing shakes. There's still, while the digestion process still has to occur, it's a lot easier because you're putting it into a liquid form already. Your stomach doesn't have to kind of mash it up. So yeah, it's fine. No problem. I love it.
2 more questions, I swear. 718IG. Dave, you always preach training heavy in the 4 to 8 rep range. Does that rep range, as well as the number of sets, change when you're in your 40s plus?
Well, when you're in your 40s plus, you're probably not lifting as heavy, okay? If you are, you're either a gifted individual or you're crazy, okay? Because that's when the injuries happen. Because the joint and connective tissue is not as pliable. Things tear a little bit more easily. So you have to. I think if you've been lifting your whole life, by the time you get to your 40s, you pretty much have all the muscle you're going to have at this point. To try to push it to the levels you did when you were younger, to try to add more muscle, is probably not the best idea. It's probably better to figure out ways to intensify slightly lighter weight. So if you were a 400-pound bench presser back in the day, maybe you're doing 265, 315 now, whether it be for a couple extra reps, or not, or maybe just do some forced reps at the end, or do drop sets. That I would rather see you do that than trying to push the 400 pounds again, because more than likely you're going to get hurt.
Philosophical one here to close out the show is from JRobs96. For the younger bodybuilders, say from the age 18 to their late 20s, when does Dave think the, quote, ideal time is to go on cycle? I'm talking someone who's been training 5-10 years, knows diet, knows training, knows sleep, everything is dialed in. Is there a point we can't add any more mass and need to turn to gear? I'm not talking about the typical gym bro or whatever goes for a year, hops on cycle and knows nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal decision, of course. I don't think there's ever a right or a wrong time to do gear. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that kids under 18 do gear, but they do. You know, I've helped guys, you know, who did teen nationals and stuff like that, and they were, you know, under 18 and they were using gear. And that's, you know, a lot of times I always ask their parents if this is something that they're aware of and that they're okay with it. Obviously, I'm not condoning it, but I'd rather at least supervise it so that no one gets hurt. I don't think there's a perfect time to ever start or not start. I think what the person said was try to exhaust every natural resource that you can do, whether it be natural supplements, whether it be training, perfecting diet, supplementation. Try to extract every last bit of muscle naturally out of that body that you can get. And that's what I did before I finally made a conscious decision to educate myself and then to try a cycle. And I think I was 20. I don't even remember. It was either 22 or 23 years old. And I grew really well. And we all know that steroids respond better to well-trained muscle. Look at guys like Ronnie Coleman and Kai Green. They were natural for many, many years. And then they started using gear and their bodies just blew up. That happened to me too. You know, while I didn't have the gifted structure that these guys had, when I started taking gear, it really responded very, very favorably to my body. Sean Roden was another guy who was a natural athlete for many, many years. So I think that you should try to maximize your body naturally first and make sure that everything is perfect. Diet, supplementation, and your training. And once you can't gain an extra ounce of muscle, then that you should decide, is it time to take the next step? And if it is, make sure you educate yourself.
That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave, again brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sun Rays. Reminder, tomorrow, all new episode of Guru Talk, and from this past weekend, Dave's full breakdown of the Arnold Classic Australia. For our producer Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.